And then KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head Lesetja Senona rejected allegations that he assisted alleged crime kingpin Vusimuzi Cat Matlala to secure a 360 million rand SAPS contract. During his testimony before the commission, Senona also dismissed allegations of sharing sensitive police information. He's labelled the claims baseless and frivolous. Ziyanda and Ngcobo has been closely following those submissions and joins us now from the Brigette Mabandla Justice College in Pretoria. Ziyanda, good morning again.
Yeah, Iman, I mean, today is certainly going to be even more interesting if what the commissions ended off on yesterday is anything to go by. Jeremy Very is our analyst. Good morning to you, Jeremy. Are you convinced by what Senona had to say about him not hearing anything that was being discussed between Matlala and Mkhwanazi in that meeting?
I think it needs investigation, because the correct thing that should have been done or should be done now is to go to that particular apartment, okay, and test whatever the man has said. If he says he went to the bathroom to go fetch ice to throw in the whiskey, or in the kitchen for that matter, what is the distance between then and that? To take like we would do in detectors, we take a decibel meter, and we take, for example, we try and simulate a situation and see how far the sound travels to another point to determine whether a person at the other point would have heard something. Or we test the whole scenario's description against that, to look at the probability of whether or not the other person is actually telling the truth. But to me, that is one thing. The other thing is that it still must be answered is, General Senona is an experienced man. Cat Matlala has dealt with the police in tenders. What are you doing going to an apartment in KZN discussing something with a general who is a provincial commissioner who is nowhere part of the supply chain infrastructure at head office? Any cop will tell you the system doesn't work that way. I mean, if you wanted to corrupt something, go corrupt the people at finance and at supply chain.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous. So we ought to probe this a bit more. Maybe it wasn't about a tender. Maybe the tender is a smokescreen.
Yeah.
Maybe they actually wanted to raise the issue of the PKTT investigations into CAT, because the reason doesn't make sense, even to the cops who were there. And maybe, and I hope it is so, because, you know, I have a penchant for covert operations. It would be brilliant if General Mkhwanazi saw this as an opportunity to further bring them and get evidence to make them do something untoward that is out of process, or like I described before.
Because it does sound a bit like a trap. I mean, why would you call Brigette to have a meeting in this apartment where Mkhwanazi doesn't have anything to do with supply chain? I want us to pause there. I want us to listen back to what Senona had to say about this meeting that took place in April last year, who was in the room, what was said allegedly, and what Senona claims he didn't hear.
On the 26th of November 2025, I received a series of threatening WhatsApp from Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. I think they are being attached as per S4. I was sent this chat in response to Mr. Matlala's appearance before the ad hoc committee on the 26th and 27th of November. These messages, they appear threatening to me, they are threatening to me and Mr. Matlala, and amounts to intimidation.
Okay, so in that particular bite, that's Senona claiming that he's been threatened, or he's interpreted it as a form of threat by Mkhwanazi, who texted him last year when he appeared briefly. But I think it speaks to the kind of discussions that are taking place behind the scenes as the commission is continuing with its work. Mind you, Senzo Mchunu also released a statement late last night, so he's also still clearly watching these proceedings very closely. Do you even think it's wise for him to be releasing statements and running commentary while the commission's underway?
No, it's not wise. Daneo, we said this. I mean, I keep calling you Daneo because I'm thinking of the supply chain. Yeah, no, you know, we warned about this thing, and luckily some politicians listened before when it came to the leakage of the documents around Adams and that, and some people remained silent after that warning. I mean, it is not wise, because remember, every word you write in that response is going to come back, and people are going to question you on everything. And then you have to expand that first. So don't think. You must always respond with a clear understanding or sense of calculatedness about what your words can produce. Now, when you're in a panic state, you don't think that way.
So Senzo Mchunu is in a panic state, you say?
Yes, it sounds like very panic state. Because strategically, I mean, if you come from where I come from, I would be calculating. If I say A and I use this word like this and I express this at this point in time, this is how it will be interpreted. This is what questions it might elicit. And then I'm sitting with a situation of 100 more questions that I haven't planned to answer on the basis of one mistake I've made here through acting too fast. So to me, you know, these kind of panicked responses, in the interest of the person who is panicking, rather remain quiet. And I mean, respect the process.
Yeah, and I mean, part of the reason why we are here is because Senzo Mchunu is facing one of many allegations, but amongst them, that he's been influenced and is maybe directly involved. In fact, those are the words of Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, directly involved in the operations of this criminal cartel. Now, if you listen back to, you know, late in the afternoon yesterday, where they're playing that clip by Lieutenant General Dineo Nkua, which Matlala had access to, does that maybe push us towards the cartel element, maybe not on the part of Senzo Mchunu, but Vusimuzi Cat Matlala having access to an internal SAPS meeting that is speaking about supply chain, and you know, clearly that might intimate that he's got people inside working with him.
You see, what worries me about the clip is what happens afterwards. So this happens in this meeting if the clip is what it says. But then you go and have a meeting with somebody entirely different. Do you understand? But
why does Matlala even have access to the recording?
That's the first thing. Because my knowledge of those proceedings is that after General Hamilton Hlela was arrested and served, the head of logistics, and he's serving his sentence for 10 years, that the process changed by a more committee formwork when it comes to dealing with those tenders and decisions, and every step along the way was recorded, which was not the case before. Under Hlela, it came with General Cruiser. He brought certain practices that ensured that there's sufficient independent verification and recording of what happened. That was continued. So my question is, and that is very tightly controlled. It gets locked up in a safe. How does it get to other things? Okay, let's say it was documented and the documents can get lost between secretaries and PAs and people sending it around. I can understand. But the recording doesn't get circulated that way. Okay, so that calls for a counterintelligence investigation to look at that particular leakage of the recording. It will be much easier to track that process than a document that can go 100 different directions in the office. You understand?
So maybe then Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi was in the middle of a counterintelligence operation. Like you mentioned, why would Vusimuzi Cat Matlala think, I must call Bheki. I've got a problem with payments and purchase orders. Let me call a former police minister, Bheki Cele. Bheki Cele says the person to assist you is Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and then they have a meeting at the Pearls in Mhlanga, and in that meeting, Mkhwanazi says, no, Lieutenant General Dineo Nkua, she's living beyond her means. I will get you dirt on her in exchange for dirt on Shedrick Sibiya. I mean, he even has a recording of that meeting. Does that not tell us that maybe he trapped them?
Yes, even Becky. Remember, Cartel was a national commissioner. So he even knows that process much more intimately that we're talking about. Kwanazi was an acting national commissioner, so he also has intimate knowledge of these processes beyond the average police officer.
Sure.
So the fact that the two of them can be in this play, that's an expression we use in our terms, can come in play under that pretext, if it is so, and play into a meeting of this nature, I mean, shows there's some subterfuge that needs to be explained, and the motive of that subterfuge needs to be explained. But either way, if there's subterfuge, if it's a part of some operation, it certainly is a brilliant one, because to fool a person, an operator of the caliber of Cat, in such a context, you must know how to do your preparatory work before the meeting to make such a person susceptible to or approachable for such a particular scenario. But that alone is fine. But what cannot be explained neither by Senona or by Cat, you've got access to a tape that is supposed to be a content. It's much more differently handled secretly than a document. As a police officer, you must explain, with the knowledge you have that this is that you are responding on that basis with Cat and going, and no normal friendship can explain that.
Perhaps it will be also interesting to hear if Brigette, because he shouldn't have access to that recording in the first place. And Senona, how does he say
let me tell you, there's one rule with that the public rarely knows, that I'm obligated as a police officer to arrest somebody when an offense is committed in my presence. I cannot move. I cannot say I was not on duty. If he shoots you today in front of me, I execute or does something that I see is criminal, I have to act. The law requires that I individually act, whether I'm at home or whether I'm on duty or not, it requires that. So, look at the scenario. Senona knows there's a tape. He also from experience. Remember, he's not an ordinary cop. He was, at one stage, he handled forensic investigations for the SAPS internal audit team, so he has much more intimate knowledge. He needed to act on the moment when he received this. It needed to be passed on, and if he didn't act, the first part of the action is he becomes the primary witness against Matlala after getting this position. He becomes part of the chain of evidence, and then from there he reports to somebody, and the detective takes it further. But worse, he was supposed to arrest the man.
And this then speaks, Jeremy Very, to what is the extent of the relationship between Senona and Vusimuzi Cat Matlala. He's admitted he treated him like a younger brother, but a younger brother involved in affairs that should actually be seeing you taking action against him. Well, Iman, this is exactly what the commissioners were questioning insofar as the ability of Senona to uphold his oath of office. It's back to you in studio.
And episode 2 of Senona's testimony, highly anticipated today. Ziyanda, thank you for that. We'll bring up the headlines next.